afternoon, friends. Today is the 2nd of June, the year 2012, and we are having a retreat at Ipswich. This morning, I promised we were talking about the benefit of meditation, and the other side, the side effect of that, or anything related to that topic. So, back to the normal life. And we know we have 4 postures: standing, walking, laying down, and sitting. Right? And we are talking about the law of energy conservation. The model gives right to everything. So every day, every hour, every minute, she has to take it back to preserve energy. So that's why you see from the very simple life, like bacteria, the same thing, like a grass, a tree, a plant, and a human being, the same thing. We were given energy from the time of the conception, even though before that, but in the very large energy form we cannot see by our naked eyes. But and then after conception, we brought it in the condensed form of the form of the human being, and then we grown up. So every day we intake the food, the drink, the energy, so that we have to return it. By which way? When we stand up, we walk or we stand. You see, again, the energy is completely here. So it will draw out by the gravity. So that's why, okay, we're losing the energy, like I'm talking the first day on the working meditation. The energy will draw back to the earth, and if we're not mindful enough, and the energy will spread out from our brainwave too. So we are losing the energy. That's why, okay, we need to intake all the time. The more mindfulness practice, the less energy we are losing. Right? So same thing in here. So that's why, and again, I told you everything has both sides. The benefit, the advantage and disadvantage. For the position of standing, walking or standing, the disadvantage, that means we withdraw back the energy easier. But the advantage, again, by the force of gravity, it will help to draw down whatever have a mass, and whatever heavy, okay, we will settle down. Whatever lighter, it will flow up. Right? So in that case, if we have any toxic substance, it has the mass, it will go around the intestine, it goes around in the bloodstream. So if in the intestine, okay, it flow and it go down to the feces. In the blood, it go around and around to the kidney, it kick out to the urine. Right? And then on the other hand, the lighter one, that means the air, the toxic gas, it will flowing up and it gets out to our lung, to our nose. And outside, okay, it was through sweating. Alright? So that's the benefit of that, of the vertical position. So it has a good side and it has a bad side, and we're losing energy. And also because when we stand up and when we're walking, we need to open our sense organ to look at the direction, to know it's balanced or not. So we spend energy more on that activity. So, and then when we lay down, we are in horizontal. So now the benefit of that, we may relax more, we have rest more, and the losing energy by the gravity force, okay, less, right? But again, the disadvantage, the same thing happens when we lay horizontal. Whatever the substance in here, it will deposit or lay down on our trunk. And the air, the gas, it go up on our belly and our chest compartment. It needs another extra force to put to the bottom, put to the top. So advantage and disadvantage again, both sides. So in general, you see standing, walking or laying down, it have an advantage and disadvantage, but the disadvantage sometimes is higher than the advantage. That's why we need to consume intake all the time, and the toxic just accumulated all the time. And also when we abuse the laying down position, what happens? It makes our mind be sluggish, slow down, and it not improve for the mental formation or for the spiritual life. See? So that's why if for the daily activity, it already be backed up, be disadvantaged already. And talking about the higher spiritual life, okay, it will have a lot of disadvantage. So in general, laying down, standing up, walking around, okay, all that we will have more disadvantage than advantage. So only one position left, that is sitting. Right? So when you sit, minimum on the chair, it flops a little bit. You see, it flops. So we can take the advantage of the vertical position on the top part. See, on the top part, we still take the advantage of vertical. So on the mass particle still settle down under the line 1, okay, flowing up. And then we take advantage of the low part. We don't want the energy to be rolled out. So we block it 1, 2 angle. So we preserve energy a little bit more than standing up or walking around. But if we can up 1 more block, you see, we will have more energy to preserve. And also we can have a more compression for upward. And as you see the energy, we are living in an energy world, so it's all energy only moving around. And the moving around the energy, it has many different patterns. It will circulate around in the orbit. It will move around like the wave, up and down, right? So if we sit like this position, the energy may, even though it be blocked or compressed, but it's still leaking out a little bit. So when we pull one leg up, now get inside. You see, when the energy out, okay, come in, only this one leaking out. So we preserve more energy. And also the benefit when you pull one leg up, the ankle, break the point, what we call the triangle point. This is a very important intersection in our body. That's the intersection between the meridian for the kidney, the liver, and the spleen. And the kidney not only responsible for the filtration, it's also responsible for the energy, the spiritual, the production of all of them, the hormone, and especially the adrenal gland. So the kidney in the Asian medicine, the kidney is the most important, what we call tinh khí thần. I mean, not only to help to rejuvenate our body, it also tries to regulate all the activity, the heat in our body, and that is the one to make the blood flow and all the other activity can be carried out. It's also responsible for the bone, the eye, the ear, and the hair. The liver, we already talking about that too much, right? It's responsible for the digestive system, the elimination system, the immune system, and it helps for the circulation system too. And the spleen, that is the manufacture, the one manufacture the blood cell, the red blood cell, and that is the gracia for the red blood cell too. But actually, it has many other features too. It will regulate the body temperature, and it helps to boost up the immune system. So that's why when we sit, when we pull one leg up, okay, it will help to regulate all of that main meridian during the time we're sitting. It looks like you have a major intersection. If you have a red light, it's still not as good as you have a policeman stay there to conduct all the flowing of the traffic, right? It much better than just the red light automatically to inhibit the same thing. When we do the acupressure separately at the treatment session, it's not as good as when we do the meditation and acupressure at the same time. So the body, the mind, the physiology, okay, all come in one to regulate on that activity. So, but it still have one disadvantage because it still have a leaking a little bit. But when we crop bow in the full lotus, you see, it blocks completely, no way for the energy to be poured out. And then the pressure pulling up stronger, right? So now the energy having no way to going down. It's only one direction to go up. By pressing and push all that energy up, it will go through this compartment, and all of our main organs stay in this compartment. So it will nourish and it will rejuvenate, it will rebalance everything in here before it gets up here, right? So when it gets up here, now it has two ways to go. One either going up or going down. Which one is better, easier? No? Going down is always easier, right? That's why we need to block it. So, as you see, it's many different ways. If you are a strong person with a strong energy, if the weather outside, if in a good weather like that, it's warm, you can live freely. But if you want to, if you have a cold, if you not feel really well, if you want to sit in the rain, on the mountain, in the snow, that means okay, in the very hazard condition, and you want to boost up the energy, you need to plug it completely. You see, you plug it completely. And then when we feel, when we compress the energy up, we plug on that, so it has no way to get out. So it will slowly build up, right? When it builds up here, and it compress right here, so that's why okay, we feel the feeling of warming or hot running around the kidney area, the back pain, and the kidney area, and it goes up to the shoulder. And if we not let it get through it here, we get stuck in here, and you used to have a pain or cramp or muscle blockage, stiffness here. It looks like again, we have out in the highway, we have a 4 or 5 lanes, and then okay, we merge together, so the traffic stops. So why they need to get through it, this is the building mechanism of the nature, because they don't want what we call the creator, but it's not creator. This is the way for many years, 100 or 1,000 or million years, they modify through the evolution to make the human being and the advanced animal. Because if we don't want on the foot here to rise freely here, so it's not compressed, it's not enough. So that's why it needs to compress it. So it has to narrow down the weight. So the foot will be stronger. So the foot will be stronger, it will boost up the pressure up here to nourish the brain. And it also this is the stargate. It is the control gate. Not everyone can get through here. It has to filter. So this has many different purposes, and after it passes through this gate, it will come up energy here to help to have the strong, clear mind, the wisdom, or the understanding of the mundane world. The more we practice, the more we let go, and that energy will flow up to have an extra energy, and then we will feel lighter, and then we can connect to the universal energy. And at that time we are free. You see? So that's why only this technique be used from many different traditions. Hindu, okay, even though Catholic Church in the old time they still have to use this one. People want to practice the supernatural power in Asia or Asian culture, or we use this one. So that's why this is the only technique to convert the universal energy into the higher state and get out of the controlling of the mother or the nature. And then back to the hand position. After we build up the energy, if we not release it, what happens? The energy building up, the temperature building up. This is the side effect. That's why I have to tell you. When it dries up the temperature, it will damage the myelin around the nerve cell. Right? What we're talking about when we get angry, when we get upset, the same thing in here. When the temperature rises up, but if we don't know how to release, return it back to the nature, we don't know how to break it so it gets through it here, it will build up and it will damage the myelin. So that's why sometimes you feel pain. You feel hot and you feel pain. That is one mechanism of action. The other mechanism of action, because when it compresses, it cannot get through in here. So the reflective Newton force on the Z will rebound. The stronger we compress, the stronger it rebounds. So that's why we feel pain more. It also stimulates into the nerve system, the neural system. So that's why we need to release it out. Is that the way we can rub together, or we can lift one hand on the other, only the tongue touch. And again, when the power, the current is high enough, we need to open it a little bit. Otherwise you feel very hot. Have you ever experienced this? If you sit long enough, if you concentrate long enough, only half an hour, and you will feel very hot, very tingling at the tip of the tongue. And that's why we have to let it release it out a little bit. Like,
is it always the right hand bottom?
Oh, no, not really. Accurately, we have to parallel whatever leg on the top, the hand on that side has to be on the top. So it's parallel. But we can do whatever, but correctly it should be like that way because that is the circuit, the flow of the current. Alright, look like when you look at the nature, when we have thunderstorm, right? When we have thunderstorm, if the cloud gets close to the earth, the thunderstorm, okay, it's very small, very light. But if the cloud is very high, the thunderstorm is bigger, right? That means the current is stronger. The same thing in here. When our power, when our current low, we can leave it touching together or very close. But when the power, the current is built up strong enough, we have to let it out. Otherwise, it will boom. The field now broken. Alright, so up to the point in the future, maybe when you practice in the summer or when you practice strong enough, concentration strong enough, and you have to leave it out. And after you finish to this level, when you do the completely merging and you want to let go everything and you are the conductor, you are not the battery anymore. Okay, now you are at one with the nature. That's how you let it out, let go completely. Alright, so follow the order. It's not only if someone sitting there, they don't know what is that. So you never can build up your own energy because it's in and out. See? So we have to go by the order. And also, as we know, this one is the lock is setting, and up here we have the lung. Usually when we are in the position of standing, walking, or laying down, we open both ends, right? So the air flow, it can breathe in and we can let it out when it builds up in the abdominal area. In the Oriental medicine, we have some pair of the organs go together. We have the liver go to the gallbladder, the kidney go to the bladder, the lung instead go to the lung. So that means they have to work in pair to assist each other, to mutual each other. So in case of this one, if it's not working together, when we sit in meditation, we block the bottom. So the only way to get out of air, we have to get out like this way. So if we're not connected, it has a gap in the middle. You see? So this is the way to connect two organs together, to let the air flow evenly and connect each other, and that way will help the energy flow evenly in the closed circuit. Instead it has a gap, it's open. It also, this is the mudra for the wisdom. We have 10 different mudra. 1, 2, 3, 4, and we have 10 of them, and each of them represents for one activity or two. But for this one, it will relate to our wisdom, that means our brain. So you see, it kind of correlate, because when we can connect it to the lung intestine and the lung, the energy will flow evenly, so it will pass this gate. It will be put out under the bad gas, it will put under the energy up through this gate, and then it will help to nourish our brain. So from that the wisdom comes out. Alright? So if after we can do for ourselves, that means okay, we understand, we listen, we understand everything happening in our body. And we master that, and we can harmonize with the nature. At that time we have a wisdom, we have a power, and then we can let go everything to come back, return. We borrow the energy from the nature, we develop to the higher state, and now we bring it back, we return back to the human being, to the earth, but at active way, but not a passive. Alright, an active way, not a passive. That means now we are the controller, not be controlled by the natural law. So, finish the hand, you can all lock together, you can turn it out, you can open a little bit, you can let it out on the knee, and you can let go everything. And then also, look at the drum. The drum has to be straight correctly. If our drum not stay correctly, and we will have the problem with that. That means the pyramid it not stay evenly, it's not stable, it will bend out, and then all of the all of the nerve, the vessel, blood vessel in here will be blocked, and the flow of energy will be blocked. So that's why we need to let our spinal cord it in a natural way and in the center of the pyramid. In that way, we need to have only one axis from the tip of our head through our chin and down to the bottom, in the middle, just in front of our pupil area. If we bend our neck, it will open. Okay, we make two axes, so that we will losing force and it unbalanced. Next, the position of our neck and our eyelids, it has to be parallel to the mental state. If you pay attention, you will see that whenever we lean forward, our mind, our mental state, it will be a little relax to the point of fall split, right? And if it lean backward, it's more alert, and then chunky like a monkey, right? The same thing for our eyelids. It will open our eye completely. Okay, distraction, and the light coming is stimulate the chemical to make our awake. But when we slowly close it, and then it will relax the parasympathetic, so it makes we feel relaxed and we can get into the drowsy and the sleepy, right? And also when we close our eye, it will stimulate the pineal gland to produce the melatonin, and that will help to induce the sleep. So that's why if we not know that, how can we adjust that? Depend on our mental status. It's not fixed all the time. We have to close the eye. We have to look at that. We have to adjust it. Early in the morning, we have full sleep, and it gets harder to that. So if we still wake up and we not exercise yet, and we get into sitting meditation, they may get back to sleep right away. So that's why we need to exercise first. We need to open our eye first, and slowly we close. On the other hand, after 8-hour, 10-hour working day, you are very tired, right? Your mind will jump all around, very active. And now if we come in sitting to relax and we still open our eye, it continues to interact, to be distracted, can never be get in stillness or relaxation state. And then we close our eyes slowly. But if we don't recognize that, again, it is the two sides that the more active during the daytime, the more energy we are losing. right? So that way when we get into the state of relaxation, we get into the sleeping state right away. So that means after we close our eyes to get it, shut down the activity, but and then slowly we have to open it back. So we maintain the brightness, the alertness of our mental status. So that way, if we don't know both sides of that, first we cannot get into the stillness state, or we will fall into the sleeping state. And if we get into the sleeping state, it's good. Consider you had a problem with sleep and you are very exhausted. But talking about the development of the wisdom and the enlightenment, that is no good. No good at all. Alright? We were talking about that. Hopefully we have time talking about that's why the difference between people in meditation and people in the deep sleep. Alright? So that's why we need to adjust our neck and our eyelids depend on our mental state. It never be the same for all the sessions, from one session to the other. Next, our face relate to our smiling and our lip, our tongue. If we let it really serious, really concentrate, that is very tense. No way we can relax, right? But if you let normally, still the space inside our mouth is still big. So the tip of our tongue, it's very difficult to turn the upper palate. So the circle is not closed. Only when we let the half smile, the space it will be smaller and it hit. Okay, it will pull the tip of the tongue to touch the upper palate. So it will close the circle first. Secondly, when we let the half smile, it will relax the muscle on the face, right? And we are talking about in the chewing technique. And then also, when the space inside our mouth becomes less saliva we stimulate to secrete. So if the saliva not secrete, but we don't have to swallow, and the nervous system not be stimulated all the time. So we get easy into the state of the stillness, the relaxation. And when we get into that state, the gland here, next to our ear, will get back to the central nervous system, get to the pineal gland, get to the pituitary gland. And then we were talking about that next. But back to the first step, where we try to put on our legs drop together in the half lotus, or in the yogi, half lotus, full lotus, right? The higher state, the better, because the more energy be conserved. But look at, we only learn about the correlation, the connection between all the body, right? So, when we let it free, the channel, the way it's free, so the energy flow out, flow in, the nutrition, the air, the toxin, free. But when we put it back, we crowd it. That means we try to block it purposely, right? To prevent the losing of our energy, to compress the energy up. Also, we block the transportation way, right? So in that case, our body has to react by the what mechanism of action now jump in here, survival, adaptation for survival. The human being is a higher animal, the advanced animal. So adaptation and survival mechanism is the best But it has again, it has two sides, the passive and the active. The passive, that means, alright, you suppress me, I try to deal with that, I try to tolerate that, right? That means, when we block that, the nutrition come in, become less, the oxygen come in, become less, the sodium from the immune system come in less. On the other hand, the toxic substance build up, become higher, right? So what it means, our body, especially down in here, it are learning how to adapt to an environment, a condition more hassle, more difficult. From the blockage of physical, anatomical, now the physiology get involved. Because it has to adapt to the lower level of oxygen saturation, lower nutrition, lower protective, and higher toxic level. See, so now it changes to the physiology. From the physiology change, it will help to change the mental status. That means now we can deal with the hassle situation. We can accept it easier. But we don't know. That is the benefit of meditation. When we practice this, it has a term that says no pain, no gain. That means it has a benefit like that. You have to pay for what? Well, the more you pay, the more benefit you have. That's what I mean, no pain, no gain, because it has the value of that. So when we train our body like that, the more we practice, the more training, okay, the better it will be. Right? So when we practice that oftenly, suddenly you see, oh, before we cannot handle a very difficult situation, we always react to someone, okay, they say something unnicely. But now, when we practice that and see physically change, physiology change, and mentally change too. So we can be flexible, we can adapt to any situation. So you see the benefit of that. Very clear and very connection. And that's just the passive mechanism of action. We have another active one. Still the mechanism of adaptation and the survival. But the active one, what that means? Alright, you block me. I want to fight you back. Right? Because you block that, okay, I want to fight you back. I want to get out of that. I want to struggle for that. That means, by physically, it has to extend the muscle on the blood vessel. It has to be bigger, stronger. And then for the physiology level, our body automatically produces some substance to clear up the blockage. And it also creates a new shunt, a new pathway. If you sit for a while, you will see it will come out some new vessel, some new blood. That is externally, internally, okay, if we can look at the microscope level, we'll see it makes a new pathway. Alright? It also, it makes some substance like the anticoagulation. It melts out on the blockage inside the blood vessel, inside the interspace. And also from that, it will change the way of our behavior. That means we be more prone to interactive in a positive way. We want to change, we want to adapt, we want to make a new one, we want to renew. So from the passive, from the active, it always contributes to all three different levels of our body. And if we practice it oftenly, okay, you will see the change of that. And it also, when it gets used to that. And when the pressure, the energy build up to here, and especially when it passes to this gate, we already know when we're talking about the art of chewing. When it passes through here, it will stimulate the pineal gland. And the pineal gland first, it will have to release endorphin. The endorphin will flood down and then help to relax and reduce all the pain. And the serotonin coming out, the norepinephrine coming out, and all the chemotoxin is coming out, so it will rejuvenate and then rebalance all the hormone and other chemical in our body. So, and then it will lift up our spiritual level. All that form build up from here. But in the present time, in the real life, we already have a lot of benefit already. You see? So that is the kind of nice thing. But I already talking about the passive and the active, right? What happened? The purpose of our goblet are sitting down to compress the pressure up, but it's not going through here, this gate. What happened? Compress in this compartment. So if you sit, you feel pain, that is normal, because we purposely doing that, and then we are learning how to adapt to that, how to get used to that, how to make a new way. But if you not recognize that and you try to again that, it becomes different story. Now the Newton force get involved, right? So that's why we get the current is building up and we feel more pain, more tension. So if we try to that, okay, it becomes a battle inside of our physical body, and the pressure building up. We had a problem with the stomach. We had a problem with our intestine. We had a problem with our anal. So if before sitting meditation, before practice meditation, you're okay. But after practice meditation, if you see you have a hemorrhoid, you have ejaculation, you have abnormal menstrual period, you have indigestion, you have a stomach problem, all that, it will rule out all the other factors. That means, okay, if you eat regularly, you're not under stress, you don't eat anything wrong, you exercise normally, you don't change your diet, right? That's a different story. If you don't eat enough fiber, you don't exercise, you have a hemorrhoid, you have a constipation, that is normal, not blame on the meditation practice. Alright? If you're upset, you're under stress, okay, you had a stomach problem. That is your problem, not the meditation practice problem. So we have to distinguish that. Right? What I'm telling you here, so we know if everything normal, we are practicing, we are having a normal life. And now we turn on to say, okay, practice meditation, it has a lot of benefit. How about trying that? But if nobody show you and you do the wrong thing, alright, you don't feel any benefit. Oh, I'm trying because people told me it had a lot of benefit. I'm trying. And then when you try, oh my God, it's so painful. And you struggle with that. And it turned out no good. At the first, okay, no good because too painful. I can't handle that, but I try because I love benefit. And then after the few, oh my goodness, I have an indigestion. Oh my goodness, I have a pain in the stomach. Look at that back. So correct that, relax, alright? And then after exercise. And then also, when it passes through this one, okay, that means what we call the side effect, right? And then the other problem up here, normally we have, again, illusion. Yesterday we were talking about the cup. We thought this is a stable, it's the ceramic, but it's not really. Okay? The same thing in here. You look at the sound, this is the sound wave. We just take one per 100 seconds. Not only a vowel yet, you see. And if you look at that, you see the block of signal. But when we look at deeply, that means we stress it out. You see how many peaks we have in that? 1 per 100 seconds. We have more than 100 peaks in there. And if we just look deeper, that means we stretch it out. It becomes like a wave length, right? So the same thing in here. Normally we have a million thoughts arriving every second, but we cannot recognize that because we be distracted all the time. And when we sit down to concentrate, oh my goodness, it bombards my head. So you're scared, right? Some people, when they sit for meditation, it's all the illusion, all the thought, it just attack, it coming and coming. So first, we scare. That's the reaction. The more you scare, the more reaction coming out, and the more tired you. Okay, that's the first thing. And you feel very tension, very stressed, and you sweat. And then also, it will stimulate the central nervous system, send out to set out adrenaline to stimulate the heart, make it pump, 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 right? And then okay, the blood pressure contract, the muscle contract. Okay, now it becomes worse. Another situation when we look at that, and instead of watching it go by, you. And you try to fight back for every single thought arrive. So now the battle becomes more terrible. You see? So that way it burns out your energy, and then the heat comes arrive. And then the chain reaction comes in. So that way your head looks like it wants to blow out. Another situation is in talking people, oh, sitting meditation, like okay. Look at in heaven. I see the color, I see the image, I see I'm floating around. Right? So people, oh my goodness, okay, you have that appearance, and then okay, you are not at that stage yet. Or maybe that is your imagination. Right? And you have other people, oh, so you come in and be sitting with imagination. So after that, okay, that is totally outside of the meditation. Okay? So that okay, spend a lot of energy in imagination. It has a good side. But if we don't know how to use that, it becomes bad. In the future, when we have on the retreat for all technology, on the way for treatment, the certain disease by meditation, we were talking very deeply about each technique, the advantage and disadvantage. But again, imagination, it has a good practice. It has a good effect. And then remember, the higher the mountain, the deeper the valley. On the way both sides. Alright? So we have to know when we should stop and when we should apply. So here, that is another situation. So make us get into trouble. And then we imagine we get that. And then again, the law of abstraction comes in. When you imagine that, when you think about that, so some form of the supernature or some other being in the nature will get involved in that. That means sometimes you just let your thoughts wandering around. You no longer take care of your own house. So your soul wandering. Other soul will get in, occupied. So that means you become schizophrenia. Some people have that real because other soul get involved and it occupied, kick you out. That happens. You see? So that's why we need to know that. So we have to go on the right track and keep track of that. So you're okay. And make sure, okay, we practice with the community. If you're not strong enough, or you have a master to guide you through certain state. Alright? But it has a lot of benefit. And then here is the relationship of all the activity in the universe. And you see, we are living in a world of a trillion the planet. So if we know how to use the energy from the universe, it's very powerful. And whenever we sit in meditation, the energy from the universe automatically draw into your body if you open the gate correctly. Alright? So only meditation, especially sitting cross-legged, it will help to regulate or to realignment everything in our body. And on the first day, when we're talking about walking meditation, I told you, from the beginning, when we first born, okay, we breathe correctly from the belly, that means go deep down there. And then slowly, when we interact with the society, with the stressful, with all of the attachment, okay, we are losing that capacity, and we kind of breathe shorter and shorter, narrower and narrower. And to the last day of our life, okay, we just breathing a little bit and we out. So meditation just brings you back to the origin. So we need to, when we do the walking meditation, we put our hand in front of our belly. So we know, okay, the air coming down, the belly, okay, is extend. The same thing for the first 3 breaths. When we get into the sitting meditation, we try to connect the breath down to the energy center down here. But after we practice for a while, when we can slow down the heart rate, when we can slow down the breathing rate, and we can extend it out, so the breath it becomes longer, and then after we can connect together, it becomes shorter and shorter, and then very gentle. Normally we have a fit about 70 to 80 beats per minute for the heart rate, about 15 for the breath rate. But when we sit in meditation, depends on how fast or how deep you're in that. The heart rate will maybe go down to 65, 70. The breath rate about 12 or 10. You can bring down to 8. You can bring down to 5. You can bring down to 2. Even a 1 minute for one breathing. And then also, you know, and I told you some yogi, they can be buried under the ground for weeks or for months. That means they not die. It's just because their breathing rate it be extended now. Instead we breathe 10 times per minute. Now they breathe one breath in 10 days or in 30 days. And in China, about 13th century, they discovered one Zen master. They lived in a tree, a big tree, 800 years. And in the Buddha time, many people have doing that. And even though right now, you know, Mahakassapa, he still, according to the Buddha teaching, he still meditate in the mountain in the South India. So that means almost more than 2,500 years. That means they can extend the breathing rate out long, but not that means okay they terminate their life yet. So we know we can do that. The slower the heart rate, the slower the breathing rate, the longer the lifespan. And then whenever we have a thought arise, it will interfere that. You see, we get back to the normal right way because we depend on that. We be attached to the environment. But if we can concentrate slowly, our breathing rate, it will slow down, and become very, very soft, very, very gentle. To a point, you see it will go up to the tip of your nose, and in front of your eyebrow. That's what we call the third eye. Right? See? And when we can concentrate that, you will see the color of the bright color, because all the energy it will concentrate at one point. It looks like when you have a coils of on the wire, you wrap around a coil of metal. Okay, when you have electricity go through, okay, generate electromagnetic field, right? And if we concentrate enough, we will see the color coming out. Or even though the same mechanism for the neon, right? We have the white coming out, and then we have the gas in there. So when the current goes through that and bump, it creates a wave, and it concentrates our energy and the light coming out. So depends on the gas we use in that. It will have the yellow color, the white color, the purple color, or the orange color. So when all the energy concentrated in that, okay, it will come out the light in the third eye here. And at that time, we open the gate. And remember, we are a tiny universe. Our energy always lower down the energy from the big universe. So the energy will flow in naturally and fill up all our channel. And our body, we have at where I learned, we have a many different body. The physical one, and this one kind of like a lymphatic system. It goes throughout the body, and it's just an empty channel, and all the energy will flow through that. Whenever we have an unbalanced, unblocked, okay, it will block that area, and we have a painful experience. That means the energy blocked right there. So if we not relax to open that, to let the energy flow in, to clear the obstruction, and then we get sick, we get pain, etc. But if when we let all of the channel open by acupressure, by meditation, by yoga, okay, it will help to open all that channel, and the universal energy will come in to clear all the obstruction area. You see the red area, that is the obstruction area. The energy will flow in to clear it up. If we stay in the stillness, it will flow in evenly and it will clear up. But if we have a mental formation, that means the illusion thought arise, and it will interfere that flow in of energy, and it blocks right away. Then so with the assistance of the meditation technique, correctly relaxation, we will have the energy from the universe coming to reboot, to clear all the obstruction and rejuvenate our energy, all of the self. And the reason why I told you that, okay, the correlation between every single organ to a molecule always have the angle, right? Like the water in our body, it has one oxygen and two hydrogen. It makes an angle. So from one molecule to the other molecule, okay, combine together, and it makes most of that the angle. So the same thing for our universe. It's constructed by the same pathway. So that way, if we know how to use the structure of that, it will collect the energy. So we have two good ways to connect to collect the energy. That's one, the pyramid. Secondly, in the dome. That's why you see most of the church, most of the Capitol Hill, all the city hall, most of the religion building, they build the main hall with the dome on that. And the same mechanism we apply for the disk of the satellite. That is the way it connects and it collects all of the universal energy and it makes it more concentrated. And look at the way, not only the building, the material, the physical work, etc. The way we set up in meditation will help. You see that, right? So, even though from one person to the other person, it makes a triangle. Combined together, it becomes the cubic, the hexagon, or whatever. But it always has to follow a triangle. Inside of that, a circle. Outside of that, we can make another circle. So the energy always flowing in that orbit. When we compare, when we arrange between the inner circle and the outer circle, still it makes a triangle. See? And again, the inner circle, the outer circle still make it that. So this is the way we get into the intersection of all of the energy flowing. So you have a high peak of that. So it will support our energy from the universal energy. It not only helps from the building, it helps from the arrangement inside that. And with the practice, with the assistance of all of that, the pressure, the energy will arrive. And we didn't have enough time to show you the structure of our pineal gland. And I told you it's very, very important, and that is the stargate. That is the control gate to let us connect between this reality and the non-physical reality, between the daylight and the dream life, between this life and the past life or the future life. The mechanism is very simple. It's very simple because the structure of our pineal gland, it constitutes of many, many crystal forms, like a piece of a crystal in the angle, like a very tiny pyramid. But many of that combine together and it's just the fluid flow between them. So, in the old time, we used one like a stone. It has a capacity to spark out. But now we don't use that anymore. We use a crystal in here. Right? We have a tiny bit piece of crystal with the compression. See, with the force of the compression, okay, it makes the light coming out. And with that light, with that energy, it hits the gas and the flame coming out. Right? So when we cross our leg, when we want to preserve energy, when we want to compress all the energy up, we convert all the universal energy into this machine to pull it up and then click. The pineal gland get involved, and that's why we see the color. We feel the very light state, the floating in the air, because this mechanism get involved. The air, we keep it lighter than the material, and then the pressure, it will click on the crystal form in the pineal gland and make it coming out the light. You see the pineal gland in the back, and it rests in the front, that means the third eye coming out. When the pressure put it up strong enough, like lighter. So that's why the color coming out, and it depends on how strong the pressure you compress. It will come out 5 color or 7 color, or sometimes okay, it have only white color, right? And you remember the light is the white color, but it goes through the lens and okay, it's split out into 7, actually into many different colors. But because our eye can receive only 7 colors, but the other animal can see more than that. Or when we have a problem with our eye, we can see less than that, right? But it's split on many different colors. So, and then when we get to that state, we connect to the universe. That's why you see in the dreaming state, or when we have a near-death experience, or when we are in the surgery with the very deep coma, most people when they come back to this world, okay, they will report that, okay, they have a feeling that go through the tunnel, right? Why is that? Because all the energy in here will draw out and it moving in a circle like a tunnel, get out of the hole in our head, top of our head. And that is the same pattern of the whole planet in the universe moving. And when we connect to that, all of the 7 chakras, okay, it open and it connects because we are the tiny universe. We have to connect to the big universe. And all of the color will represent for 7 chakras, and we completely merge with the Mother Earth, or the whole universe. And that's why we can see, even though far away at the very near in front of your nose, because we are now in the same as the universe, not distinguished, not separate. We are one identity. We are in the one world. And all the religion, master, everyone just the manifestation of different angles, but it's the same origin, the same frequency, the same image. That's what it represents for. And if we keep practice like that way, we can help, we can travel, even though sometimes we still have a physical form. Even though it's better when we get out the physical form completely. So that's why when we are in the dreaming state, in the hypnotic state, say people can travel. This time one story very interesting, back around the World War II. This time one gentleman, he fell in love with the princess of the other country. Actually he is a prince, and he fell in love with a princess from the other country, and they engaged. And then after that, she had something make her upset, and then she went home. And this guy was so upset, so sad. So he went to the doctor and asked the doctor to help him. He said, okay, no way I can help you because this is something with your mind. But and then he the hypnotic therapy. So he asked the guy, okay, I can help you to relax. Hopefully, okay, if you can connect, you can go to find him. Okay, go ahead, try. And when he let him in the relaxation state with the train of hypnotic, and he have experience out of the body, and he traveled. But because he never come to her country, so he don't know. He know, okay, for example, that the Australia, right? He said, okay, go to the Australia, to the Melbourne. Okay, you go to the capital of Melbourne. Okay, you can find her. Okay, so he traveled. He traveled to that. It becomes the mind, the signal from the mind of the doctor to guide that gentleman, okay, to travel. So when he traveled to that home, but I don't know where she lives. Okay, you know her face. Okay, so just go find her. Okay, you can travel from England to Melbourne, but now you cannot find her in the Melbourne. Go ahead, and okay, he can find to her house, access to her building. And then I know she lives in here already, but how can I get into her room? You can travel that far, you can get through all the gates, and how you cannot get through her door? Go ahead. And when he get into her room, and he's so excited, by shaking, and the doctor know already, so he saw her. So the doctor calmed him down by put his hand on the patient's forehead, calm him down, and then say, okay, tell me, report to me, okay, what her room looked like. And that gentleman, okay, tell him, okay, and the doctor draw rapidly the picture of her room with decoration on the arrangement on the furniture. And that's okay. Now go look at what she's doing. And that lady sitting on the desk, right now the letter, apologize for her behavior. This gentleman so happy. So again, it's so exciting. And then the doctor knows, what happened? She writes the letter for me. And now the doctor asked him, okay, stay behind her, read it for me. And he read, and the doctor write down by his own handwriting on his paper. And then after he finished reading, the doctor already wrote down, okay, and everything going good. So the doctor helped him to exit, let me come back to the normal. All the conversation we recorded. So, and after the patient gets back to the normal, the doctor tell him again all the story during that. And then he said, okay, I had her letter, but I don't want you to see it now. Okay, I keep in the envelope and seal it. Okay, so going home, happy, okay, you will have a happy day in a few days. And when he got home, 2 days later, he got a facsimile. Okay, when he opened it up, and he told the doctor, I got her letter. Okay, and then he bring that letter, and then the doctor opened it, asked him to open the seal envelope and compare two letters together. 99%, he said, one from her handwriting, one from the doctor's handwriting. And you know, after that event started to spread out in the medical field. And one doctor, I think from England, he know that. And he started to investigate and study that. And then he know this is true. He developed that one, and he tried many patients, and because he has skill, so he developed that skill, and then okay, he tested on many patients, and he showed it very powerful. So he came to America, introduced that to the top secret, the CIA. Nobody believed that. The reason he did tell that because this is a national security issue. It's not the healthcare issue anymore. This is national security. If someone can do that, all the secret information will be leaked out. Nobody believes that. He said, okay, if you not believe, okay, you have to support for me. That means, okay, you have the paperwork, allow me to do that for one of your secretary. Alright? On the big boss in the White House and in the Pentagon and in the CIA, okay, they have on that paperwork, allow him to do so. So he hypnotized one of the secretary, and after only 2 hours, he took out all the information, the secret information. From that, okay, they have the program for training for the CIA agency and for the defense system. And that's why you see nowadays, if you follow the news recently in China, you know what happened, right? A lot of people, they under suppression and they have a lot of problems with the food, with the drink, with all the medication. The Chinese people not only to kill their own population, they try to spread out for the whole world. And then people under the stress, too many sickness, too many terrible things. And then also the communist government try to suppress them. So the only way to anti all that one, or to protect themselves, and to practice meditation for cure the disease and for all the mental problems. But and then, you know, the history of meditation is start from where? From Asia, from India, from Greek, from China. So they know so well all this one already. So now, you know, if only few people doing that, they may control it. But with a lot number of people doing that, what happens if they have all that power? Nobody can control, so all the secret information, all the defense system will fail. Because the normal wavelength of the electron, it does what to create what we call electromagnetic field. It be limited by the time and space and the object. That means, okay, it cannot travel at the same time with the speed of light. It cannot go through the thick wall or the metal. You see? But our mind can produce a signal. It travels faster than the speed of light. It can go through everything except only the placenta and the Buddha throne. When we get there, get stuck there, cannot pass it through.
The Buddha?
The Buddha throne, the Buddha chair, the place where the Buddha sits for meditation and alignment. They call it the power and the energy too concentrated, too powerful, so nobody can pass through. So that's why if many people can be successful in this one, the government cannot control them. So that's why they suppress people and they kill a lot of people when they practice meditation. Because they know so well in the history of thousands of years, they already used that. And in the old time, every king, they have one Zen master, have that power, so they can be the advisor for the king. So when the king have that good advisor, okay, they're very successful in the government the country. So now they know that if more and more people, and again, more people are aware, more people are, they send out the signal, the signal will synchronize in the universe, and it will support each other, and they will turn over the political realm. So that's why they're scared. Let you know that because we have many different ways to practice to help our life in the present time and help a lot of people. We don't want to get involved in political, but be careful. Hopefully in this open country, okay, they not spread that. Because we don't do to the level like in China. People have 100 or 1,000 people sitting together. And because the government, they know in the history, okay, they already used that already. They already used that, so that's why they scared that. But that's why you know the power of our mind is very, very powerful. And
maybe that's why the Chinese are always suppressing religion.
yeah,
You
lately.
know that feng shui stuff, it sounded just good, but they put emphasis on that, don't they?
Yeah. And especially for meditation, they know it has a very, very advanced. And if you track back to the time of the Cold War between the Soviet Union and America, the American soldier can win the World War II with the Japanese because they use the dialect people from a very rare tribe in Arizona. So no one can decode that. Okay, and now during the Cold War, the Soviet Union, they know this technique, so they train people from Tibet, help them. And with the vast area in the highland in Russia, they have a very high concentration of energy. So they train people, send out a signal to the mind. Nobody can decode that, except you are the Zen master. Except you are in the very well training, you can capture that signal. Otherwise, no other machine can detect that. And the very special thing that it can change all the time. If you capture the signal of a frequency, for example, you want to open the channel from Australia, you turn on exactly that channel. Okay, you can have a picture, you can have an image, you have a sound, right? So it's stable right there. But for our method, it changes, depend on the angle, depend on the mental status, depend on the condition. It could change all the time, change the signal, change the frequency. That's why using only 2 or 3 people can get together at high level. At the low level, you can have many people at the high level, only 2 or 3. That's why in the old time, when you read about the Zen story in Asia, they say the Zen master can transfer information directly to one student only, not too many. What we call tâm truyền tâm, that means mind to mind directly. It looks like you understand, okay, boom. Only one directly mind to mind, not to the intermediate. So that is say the how benefit of that. And the last thing I want to share with you a little bit. This one, okay, is not the big problem in the developed country, but it usually happens for some countries, not in India. In India, after someone died, okay, they wrap it and they bring to the bank of the river and we burn it, right? In Tibet, okay, they chop the patient and the dead person out and they throw it out there for the bird, okay, to eat. But in some other country, weeping, crying, sorry, okay, so all that, it will become bad energy. Because after we get out of the body, all the energy from the physical, it converts into the invisible form of energy. So it's still surrounding, it still stay around. But if unrelated, just keep mourning, crying, and all of the bad energy be sending out, so the law of attraction come in. So it holds the soul of our relative back. They cannot travel, they cannot go. So, and then also people not learn how to let go during the lifetime. We attach to this, we attach to that. We think this is the real one, so we attach that. So especially for people in an accident, they never believe they die. They're not prepared for that. So when they die, they be attached to the side that, or they be attached to the body. That's why we have many people, okay, even though for 1,000 years, the energy still remains in that side, what we call God. But actually it's not. It's just the energy we attach to that, it's not let go. So it will slow down the process of evolution, of development, of living up the spiritual life, when we be attached to any physical world. So that's why if we learn from now how to let go, how to practice equanimity, how to practice detachment, okay, we will get easier at the final stage of our life, and also it lift up our spiritual life easier. So this portion of the clip just let us know that when we travel in the energy in the universe, again, it has a certain frequency depend on our continuous energy build up and depend on the last stage of dying. It will draw out and it has a certain frequency, and again, look like we explained this morning, depend on the state of mother and father, how they prepare, and the energy will compatible, get into the conception. And if we know that, we can modify, we can manipulate during the pregnancy time or after birth. But if we don't know, it just keep follow the same pattern, and we get trapped in that from one lifestyle to the other lifestyle. So that is in general like that. Alright? So that's enough for tonight. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I love the full pictures, this one.
The process of the dying people. So if we have two different phenomena. First, relate to the dead person, alright? And secondly, depend on the relative. For a dead person, if during the lifetime he practiced let go, detachment, alright? So, and when we practice letting go, detachment or non-attachment to the, especially to the body or the physical, so that means the energy level is higher, it's lighter. So at the last minute, when we transform all the energy left over in the physical body into the photon, that means the lighter body. So it will travel depend on the frequency we accumulate through our life. Alright? So if that person not practice good, still attached to the physical body or the physical world, so the frequency is lower, more condensation. So after it converts into the photon, the light, and the light after that, it will be at a low frequency, low level. So it takes longer time for him to travel to the destination. And also, for the relative, when we do the grieving, mourning, that means that we send the same negative energy to pull that energy back. We can send out the energy for sympathy, but it's not for grieving, not for mourning, but crying, not attachment. Because if we send that negative energy, okay, it attracts the negative energy by the law of attraction. But by sending the positive energy, because if we know that's not the end of life, it just transforms the energy from the lower level to the high level. And that's just a cycle of life. Like the wind, like a tree, right? During the winter, it may lose on the leaf, it's string on the shaft, but it's not die yet. And then when the spring comes, it will start to work again. So if we look at the mundane eye, we can see, okay, at the end of the light, that means we transform from one state to the other, but it's not. The energy is still moving in the universe, and then depend on the direction, depend on the frequency, depend on the power we accumulate through our life. So if the relative can send the positive energy to support for that. I mean, if the dead person have a low energy, but the relative send it in positive energy, that means we supply more energy, so we live up. We can do anything good, anything with merit, and we send out the sympathy energy, and we send out the positive energy. Let go and encourage that soul go. So he will go faster and go to destination faster. On the other hand, if the relative doesn't know that, and we grieving, mourning, crying, and we try to hold him back, that means more attachment and it takes longer time for him to travel. And especially for the accident for people, certainly that, okay, they did not prepare for that. For the people with sickness, with aging, they have a process and time for preparing. So they know sooner or later will go. But for people who have an accident or sudden death, okay, they not prepare for that. So they always get stuck around that. Okay?
Brother, is there some sort of puja or ritual that can be done at the scene of an accident, like the child I was telling you about? Because that's totally unexpected.
Yeah, we can do that. That means the purpose of the ritual ceremony, what we call the waking bell, to let that person aware that that's not the end of life. And the energy can be transformed into different level, different form. And by letting it go, we have a quick recycle, quick regrow, rather than get stuck in that.
Sometimes when people are dying, it seems to me like the energy is going out for a few weeks before, so they get less and less light. Does that resonate for all you?
Yes, like, okay, you see this, the pyramid energy. When we came in life, first we just energy, right? Get into the womb, get some nutrition in the placenta, and we start to have carry up the bubble air or the liquid, right? After a few days, we start to divide the cell and form the organ. So grow bigger and become more solid. And then when we get out of the mother womb, we eat, we breathe, and then we work, so we get bigger, bigger, heavier and heavier, right? And then the process will revert when we go dying naturally. We're losing weight, right? And then we losing the water, so we keep dry and scream. And then we start losing our breath, right? And then finally we're losing the last energy, that means the warmth, the heat. So the heat is the final stage. Otherwise, there's some people that already stop, the heart stop breathing, the lungs stop beating, but the heat still remains in the body. Depends, some few hours, some more than 12 hours, some only about 2 or 3 hours. And finally, if we follow that track, the heat will concentrate and move, and it locate at certain point for a short period of time. So that's why it has some tradition, okay, they can predict the future of that soul, where it will travel to depend on the location on the dead body.
In the Tibetan tradition, in the Tibetan book of Living and Dying, they say the Powa is a ceremony to help the body, the spirit to leave, and you visualize light, and you send the light to, you visualize perhaps a Bodhisattva or a Amitabha or Avalokiteshvara. Does the Vietnamese tradition have a similar?
Yeah. And then that the same we can practice that when we're still alive. When we're still alive, because we didn't have time to talk about that in the practice of meditation. But in the breathing exercise, we have that one. We do the breathing exercise and contemplate on the image, on the color. And actually that can give, in the meditation, it can give for the treatment for the medical issue too. As we know, we have the color. With the human being, we can recognize only 7 colors, right? So we can say from the red, that is the more yang, to the purple, that is the other end, very yin. So the red, orange, to yellow, to green, and to dark green, and then to brown, purple. So the blue is maybe in the middle. So people with depression, for example, and it's too low level energy, we let the patient look at the circle of red color, for example. So where that patient just concentrate on the red color, and they imagine that, okay, that color will spread out, it's bigger, and then the whole atmosphere in the room turn out become the red color. And you know that the law of attraction coming, right? Because the red color, it has a certain wavelength, certain frequency. So when we imagine that, that means, okay, we send a signal to that, connect to that. And when we send out a signal, connect to that color, that means we send out a wavelength parallel or compatible with the wavelength of the red color. So that means we extract more that energy coming, and it will stimulate, or it will change the patient's status. On the other hand, people with schizophrenia, right? So our patient with restlessness, we have to calm the patient down by letting the patient look at the blue or the white color, something like that. So the color have one thing, one application. We can contemplate on the material too. In the sutra, the Buddha taught the monk to contemplate on the water, on the soil, on the fire, and on the air. So when we contemplate on that, it will draw the energy in the same token by create the mind, the brain wave. So it will collect, it will extract all of that weight that come in, and then, okay, it will turn out. And then for the last, I believe it has some story in Japan. For boxer, it has some boxers, very well in Japan. They asked the Zen master to teach them that technique, so they can be a very powerful boxer and no one can beat them. They apply the same principle. And for the spiritual practice, we usually have an image of the Buddha, the Maria, the Jesus, whoever. So when we look at that image and when we think about that, we concentrate on that, the energy will come in, right? And then also when we contemplate on that, when we imagine that, we have a direction, look like the target to approach to. But we have to practice until we get really concentrated. If not, we don't have the result. So it depends on how we concentrate. The more we practice, the faster it goes. The less practice, the more distraction. Okay, so we have less result.
Yes, but my spiritual teacher says somebody dies, ask the angels to take your, ask if it's in the highest good for the angel to take your consciousness to where I usually ask for a child that's dying during the night and use it to their best advantage. Have you heard of that kind of thing?
Did you say that again?
He says, ask the angels to take my consciousness, if that's in the highest good, to use it for, to help a child that's been killed in the night. I mean, it can be anybody. Some people do it with suicides or whatever. So you leave the decision of whether or not your consciousness is used to God, really, that you offer it.
Yeah, that's true, but it again it depends on the preparation of the person.
Yes, well, I'm hoping it will go to the children with a very low vibrational level, you know, who have such a miserable life. I don't know.
No, not really.
No,
Because it usually depends on the age. The children, okay, they have a very, very concentrated, very high frequency because it's not be contaminated. When they pass the age of 6 or 7, they be contaminated by the mundane energy. But for the very young children, they very concentrated, very innocent. That's why we usually, okay, when we have a dead person in our family, usually the young children can see the image, can see the energy,
yes.
right? But the elder people don't see that, don't sense that, because they not be contaminated. But if they pass the 7, usually 6 or 7, okay, they start to losing all that capacity. The same thing to remember the past life. The children have a capacity to remember more than the older people.
I thought if you had a very low karma, you might be reborn in as a baby in a place where they die of starvation for 5 or 6 months. But you don't think that's so?
That happens, but it's not that all the case. Depends. It has again. It always have 2 sides, right?
Yeah.
If for example, we have to reincarnate, for example, we need to go through 7 classes, right? So if we are smart student, we can come in only a few months and then we finish, we graduate, right? And then we go up. But on the other hand, some students, okay, they are not very smart, okay, they come in and they cannot study. They have to go back. So it's the same thing in here. Some high, what we call a high level of energy, so they may reincarnate and okay, if not even if they just get into conception, they die away in the modern world, that is considered one life already. Even though only an hour. Some higher soul, they can at the same time reincarnate in 2 different, that means they manifest at the same time in 2 different bodies.
Would
the
they
same
be
place,
related?
different place. Yeah.
Like twins or completely
No,
different?
not twin. Twin, that means when you have a twin, that means in the past life they may be husband and wife, or brother and sister, or brother and brother, or the very best friend. They had the same purpose, they promised the same thing, something like that. But I'm talking about at the high energy level soul. They have a capacity to at the same time manifest. That means reincarnate into different bodies. Maybe at the same country, maybe a different country. If you want to do the research on that, let's have, what's his name? Michael Newton. Look at the Michael Newton. He wrote about 4 or 5 different books, and he had more than about 7,000 cases. He report. that is the only best. Right now we have investigated in that field very deep, and it helped a lot of people. Michael Newton. Because he originally he was a doctor, he was the hypnotherapist. And after that, because he knows that recently for the last 3 decades, as the energy from the universe is flowing faster and stronger, then it helps for the industrial development higher. But on the other end, that means it makes more people depressed, more suppression, more problem, more disease. So that's why the spiritual life starts to open the window for people to aware that. You see, in the developed country like Europe or in America, 100 years ago, we don't have much religion, right? Open window for all religion to come in. But that after the World War II, more and more they open for more other religion to come in. So the same thing in here in the spiritual world, they try to open window for whoever has opportunity to get involved and to be the what we call the mediator. So he usually, for example, in normal life, for the psychologist, they used to can bring the patient back to a certain period of time. At birth, about 2 years old, 5 or 6, 12, 13, or about 18, 25, or when we get married, when we graduate, when we have a first job, something. That is some mark in our lifestyle, important event. But for, I think the first case he got like a patient, a lady, she always feel nausea, vomiting whenever she got into the closed dark room. And then check up with all the doctor, physically no problem, check the blood, all the X-ray, no problem, CT scan. Nothing they can find anything, nothing wrong. Send through the psychologist, nothing wrong. Send through the psychiatrist, nothing wrong. This doctor, he was a psychiatrist, and then he's also the hypnotherapist. So and then he tried to hypnotize that patient and to bring it back to see what happened in her life. And he just bring it back, until usually most of the hypnotherapist, they can bring the patient back to around at 2 years old only. No one can bring back later on than that. But the doctor, lucky for him, okay, he can bring the patient back into the time the patient was born. Still nothing wrong. Because sometimes when the delivery, we use the technique and then the child cannot get out, so it gets trapped in there. Nothing wrong. And check in the time in the womb to see the improvement was okay, wrap around the neck or not. Not. So accidentally, what he said, but I think this is the spiritual world opened the door for him with the assistance of headmaster. And they let him send the patient back to the last scene of the patient that in the past life. He was killed in the smoldering. The people try to open it. So that is the struggle for life. So that struggle, that energy is too strong, so it makes a mark on her brain. And also that energy is spread out. It released into the air, into the universe. So after she was born and then it's busy, something like that, and then after her life is stable, and I come back. And after that, he discovered a lot of problems. So that's not the karma, that's not the disease of this present life, that's from the past. That's why, again, I told you this afternoon, our brainwave can go with the speed of light, can pass through everything, but get trapped in the womb, cannot get out, cannot get back, and almost eradicate brainwave. We cannot remember most of the time, we cannot remember much of the past life. If we can remember but we cannot practice to transform that. It will be very terrible. Doesn't matter if it's good or it's bad. If it's good, you get attached to that and you expect the same thing, but unfortunately you can't, right? But if it's bad like that, okay, we only live with the past and we struggle, we suffer. So that's what the purpose of life. When you get in there, eradicate on the past memory. Only when we practice mindfulness, when we know detachment, when we learn how to let go, and when we learn how to transform that, and we start, get back right away. That's why you said after 49 days of meditation, the Buddha got the first supernatural power that he remember all his past life and other people's past life. Because our brain, it look like a mirror, right? It look like the surface of the pond water. When we shake it, when it's dirty, it cannot reflect it well and clear. And then when we sit still, our mind becomes like a mirror, very clear, very bright. So the reflective capacity can be very far away, very clear, very detailed. That's why we can remember really, really far away. But if we not study, not practice how to let go, how to recognize, how to transform, when we really see that, it becomes the other end, the other side, it's terrible. So that's why in the world, eradicate all that. And after a series of about thousands and thousands of patients from all over the world, he already working with, and he developed a plan for treatment for the past life. And after that, he get deeper. That means life between life. That means between the time of reincarnation, that energy stay where what they're doing. So they tell him all that. So he report, I think, over 7,000 cases. And that's real, because right now we have almost, if you get into his website and you get into the website of the practitioner, what they call hypnotherapy, online regression. Yeah, have two different brands. One look at just the past life only, one in the middle, somewhere about there.
Can I just say that we're going to do a retreat here in October, nothing to do with Tibetan, with Thich Nhat Hanh, called Soul Travelers, and it's a group of people who do regression into past lives.
Yeah.
And there's a retreat here in this
because now I encounter a lot of patients. Actually, even though I'm not, before I know that, I already help the patient because by meditation, we know all that. Only because people not really believe in what they cannot see, cannot feel, cannot experience. But now, because the window open, so this doctor can manifest all that one. He can ask the patient a question, he can maintain the patient in the low frequency, so they maintain the awareness. But if not, get involved in the consciousness. So the patient still can hear the question, the voice of the doctor, but the consciousness not get involved, because the consciousness get involved, so it becomes distract, and something not good, they cannot retry, they cannot tell the truth. And then also, everything was recorded during the whole session. After, okay, they can replay it. So we had a group for that. And each patient, and they can how depend on the level of the soul. And they have the equipment to measure the frequency of what we call the aura. because the frequency of the energy, okay, it will create the energy around and it turn down, become a color of the sound, so they can capture on that image. So now we can have equipment to measure on that one. So they start to believe that based on some equipment, something to see, but much more we cannot see. We can experience that only. It looks like the story between the fish and the turtle. You know that story? The fish can live in the water only, right? He cannot travel out in the air or on the ground. But the turtle, he can live in the water, get along with the fish, but he can travel to the ground. And then on the sunny day, he likes to come up here, okay, traveling around, look at the sky, look at the green, look at people, the car. And then he wandering around for a few days. And then he come back to the pond. The fish asked, where did you go, guys? I travel up there. You kidding me? How can you go up there? I'm walking. You think so? Is that either clear you can turn around? No. Is that have the bubble air? No. But whatever the fish asking, the turtle say no. Because the concept of the fish live in the environment, so whatever his mind, okay, his conception, only that. Right? So whatever he asks, the turtle say no. So that means, okay, you have nothing because you tell the lie. The same thing in the meditation or in the true reality. If I drink hot water, you drink hot water too. But the temperature may be different, right? And the adaptation, maybe I get you to drink hot water, so I drink a 60 degrees Celsius water, I feel normal. But if you not get you to that 45 centigrade degree, okay, you feel burning the throat. So how can we know? Right? I see a cup of tea. Why some people drink normally, easily, but I cannot drink, I cannot sip a sip. So that's why it's something we need to be in there, we need to be experienced by ourselves. And we don't need to say anything. Say, okay, I'm there, okay, I know what you mean. You see, but if you've not been there, doesn't matter how you explain. You can use it the same, or you can use the other sample, but all that imagination. But it's not the real. But when you've been there, okay, I know what you mean. That's it. All right.
Another question?
Yes.
I wanted to ask you about a raw food diet. Because I know some people really advocate raw food, exclusively raw food, for certain health conditions. A cousin of mine had quite severe bipolar disorder, used to be called manic depression, and she has really changed her life experience completely by having a very rigorous raw food diet. It's quite tough. She has to spend a lot of time preparing the food, and her family eats different things, but it's made a difference for her. And I wondered what your experience was.
Yes, thank you very much for that question. And again, I all remind people all the time, no one, no phenomena in this world can survive or develop without energy. Right? Remember that. So, the disease state, the sickness, the wellness, whatever, still need energy. Secondly, everything has two sides, good and bad. For the raw food, it's good in terms of fresh energy. That is the true energy. But what makes the human being more advanced than ape, monkey, or the other mammal.
Cooking. Cooking.
Yeah. They know how to use the tool and the fire. So that's why, okay, it has advantage and disadvantage. It, especially in the case of people with depression, with arthritis, with multiple sclerosis, with heart disease, etc. When we use the raw food, it's very, very easy. Yeah, that means it's negative. So it may make your body feel cold, low energy, even though it's fresh energy, but it's low. When we apply the heat, that means we provide more energy and we turn it and become more but more positive. So the only problem, because we don't know how to recognize when it's enough and for which disease we should choose which fruit and how we cook. If we combine too many together, even though that is the fresh, that is the organic, but when we combine too many together, remember that's the chemical molecule, right? And when we combine together, that means the reaction occurs right there. First. Secondly, when we add heat, if we add heat at a certain time correctly, okay, that is the catalyst, right? So if we add heat in a certain amount correctly, okay, the reaction not occur all the way. So we have less new compound. But if we cook for too long, that means okay, the catalyst provides too much, and then the reaction just keep occur depending on how many substances we add together. So it may come out a whole bunch of new compound and very complicated. So that's not good for the digestive system. So it's good side and a bad side. And then also when we add more ingredient in there, more spicy stuff in there, that means it's more catalyst in there. And then okay, it come out more and more complex compound. And another bad thing too, that means okay, originally all the mineral in the soil that is inorganic, and then it brings all that into the plant to manufacture, to transform that into the organic. And then when we cook incorrectly, when we combine incorrectly, it turns back to inorganic again. Our body cannot absorb that, so it gets stuck in the body. So the cooking technique, the combination technique is very important. Like here, we didn't have an opportunity to talk about it, but now yesterday we're talking about all the combination of this already in the ratio, and we did not talk about the combination, the ratio of carbohydrate, protein, vegetable, and fat, oil, etc. But for fruit, nowadays we have many kinds of, and then first because they grow genetic modification, so they can grow in the greenhouse, and then we import from many different countries. So that's why okay, we have the same fruit all 4 seasons, right? So that is first again in Asia. Secondly, when we use it, especially when we use for dessert, correctly we should eat on this fruit. Doesn't matter that is the acid, that is sub-acid, or that is the alkali. We should eat on empty stomach. That's the first thing. Because when we eat on an empty stomach, it will absorb right away. So all the vitamin and the mineral will remain in the organic form, in the useful form. But if we leave it too long in the stomach, the acid will convert that, ferment it, and make it become inorganic, or make it change to different substance.
We should eat the alkali fruit on an empty stomach.
Doesn't matter what kind of,
Eat all of them.
all of them, yeah, when we eat on empty stomach, okay, get into the blood, it will make it alkaline. So first, if we eat it during the meal or after meal, okay, it will slow down the rate of absorption because it takes only about 15 or 20 minutes for all this one to get through the intestine. But then if we eat after meal, it remains in the stomach for 2 or 3 hours at least. So that means it changes. Secondly, when we eat fruit, nowadays we worry about all the chemical and the preservative, the wax and everything on the peel, on the cover. So we try to eliminate that. You see the correlation? The fruit, the vegetable, whatever the precious of that, whatever good, they not show up. They try to hide inside the molecule of the cellular molecule. They have to protect in that because they don't want to show up. If they show up, the insect will come to eat. If they show up, the oxygen in the air will oxidate that. The light will oxidate that. The heat will break it down. So that's why it needs to be hidden inside that. And that's not enough. That's not enough. Outside of that, they have the layer, the fan to cover for that. That is the protected layer. So in that layer, usually it has to be very thick, very hard, and then it covers the taste of very bitter. It has a tannin and a pectin in that to make the insect don't want to bite in that. And also the mechanism of that chemical, it makes the cell, it shrink together, it tight close together, so the air cannot penetrate from outside in, from inside out. It makes the water cannot, it look like the waterproof, so the water inside cannot get out, the moisture outside cannot get in. So that is the protected layer. And now if we remove all of that, we eliminate all of that, that means when we eat that, we deny the protective mechanism of our body. That's why we get our immune system start to be get lower and lower, because we don't want to be protected, right? The nature gave us everything. I give you nutrition, I give you the protection, but you don't want. You kick me out. So that's why you not be protected. That is one mechanism of why when we eat and we eliminate that. When we eat, especially canned food, alright, we feel not good at the raw food. So that is one good one. So people depend when they say some advantage and say, okay, everything good, so I eat raw food. But raw food, it have advantage, certain point, but it have disadvantage to counterbalance for that. The other problem, when we eat the sweet one in between the meal or after the meal, you see that if we have the full stomach with all the protein, carbohydrate, fat, it takes about 2 to 3 hours at least to empty this one. Especially when we eat on a full stomach already, and then we have dessert on that, very sweet. 15 minutes later, cannot dump it out yet. It's fermented. So when it's fermented, the gut builds up and we have a stomach problem. Okay? And also the sweet, the sugar, it will come down here. And when the sugar mixed with the fat, it will coagulate, clumping together. So the digestive fluid try to break it out, and the sugar come in can bind again. So keep it out here. You take all my work for nothing. You see? So when, especially I'm talking about combining when we're drinking too, it with eating, drinking together. Especially, I don't know, in Europe, but in America, they drink Coke or soft drink, cold drink in the middle of the meal. And most of the meal you see a lot of protein, a lot of fatty acid in there. So that is totally again, not too bad. The cold temperature, it already makes all the fat coagulate, clumsy together, right? And so the soft drink has a whole bunch of sugar in there. It all coagulate. That means we eat a lot of good stuff, but it turns out all bad. Because it not only it wastes all energy from the liver, the gallbladder, the pancreas, the stomach, try to secrete the enzyme, the fluid to break it down, and all that come in okay to put it together. When it clumpy together, going down here, cannot get through it. So the body will recognize that it's bad stuff, you got secrete out. So it block it more.
Are you saying that the meals we've had here, we shouldn't have had pudding? You know, we've been eating soup and a main meal, and then we've had absolutely delicious raspberry or apple stew. Are you saying we shouldn't have had that after that because it's sugar?
If we eat a small amount, it's okay.
Yes, I eat a large amount.
And then
So we should have the sweet stuff at breakfast on an empty stomach.
or empty stomach, yeah. Or maybe we can eat a small amount. And I told you the mechanism not to stop the craving for eating, because the high amount of sugar when it's released out and it satisfies the brain right away, so it shut down.
Yeah.
But and then we abuse that, so we override that message. So
I have, since I've been on this staff here, which is very strange to me, that my sugar craving is gone. So I'm delighted about that. It's really helpful for me.
So, and then when we crave for that, that means we override that message. And when we use that, too much sugar on the nutrition get into the stomach, it clumps it together. And then when it gets down here, it cannot penetrate, cannot pass the intestinal layer. So then we don't have energy, right? Because it cannot get through. So we don't have enough energy. So if we don't have enough energy, it sends a message back to the brain, hey, I don't have energy. So we're eating more. But when we eat more sugar in, or when we eat more, okay, it cannot digest it, so it will saturate. And remember, when we have a piece of wood, we don't have enough oxygen to burn, and there will be more byproduct coming out and get stuck in there.
So for practical purposes, should we have the pudding first?
Yeah. So that's one thing, when we're talking about the sweet stuff. Next to that, if we eat, we say, okay, we know the pill is good for the protection, right? It has a lot of mineral in that. But and then we already know the mechanism of action that it has a tannin pectin. So it seals up the layer. So if we use on empty stomach, it's good because that protective mechanism can get into help to protect our mucous membrane, the layer. But if we use that between the meal, what happens? It's kind of the same mechanism. When we use all that, okay, tannin in caffeine, in tea, in the fruit, come in here. All the body fluid, enteral fluid, try to break it down, and now come in, it combine together. Not only one mechanism of action. the other mechanism of action for all that, when it string the cell together, it tie it together. So for the sugar, for the sweet stuff, it has only one mechanism. That means it just clump together, right? But it not make the cell tight. That means the whole still the same. Only the side of the molecule is bigger. So for the tannin and the pectin, it's almost double or triple because it's not only clump together, coagulate together. It's now going down here. All of the cells along the GI tract, it makes it tighter. So the size becomes bigger, the hole becomes smaller. No way it can pass through. So it gets stuck in here more. So that's why we usually use all that charcoal, caffeine, tea, or the pectin to treat for what? Diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, toxic substance ingestion, to make it coagulate together, right? So it's not penetrate. So now we use it in the wrong time. So all of the good stuff now become bad one if we use it at the wrong time.
Could I just ask about omeprazole? It's a protein inhibitor for acid reflux.
Yeah.
Does that, how does that interfere with digestion? I mean, for example, would it block the absorption of vitamins, do you think?
Usually, the doctor, the Buddha tells us, okay, we have what we call eating, sleeping, and clothing. Never should be full supply. Why is that?
Eating, sleeping, clothing.
When never be full supply, that means never eat full stomach.